Hello and welcome back for video 2. Again, if you didn't see the first one, not feeling great today, but we're going to get through this. Today, for this video, we are going to be talking about the Aruba Girls, the Sullivan sisters. We heard about them previously in testimony from a few witnesses. This is the lady, Laura. She's a friend of John. She planned the trip to Aruba, the big group. And her sister is the one that Karen got mad at because she saw them, she said, making out, or he gave her a kiss or whatever. Paul and Aaron O'Keefe had both kind of touched on the Aruba trip in their testimony. So I will go over what they said and then kind of tell you how I feel about it. Go ahead and give this a like on your way in if you don't mind, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Liking and subscribing are both free and they help the channel tremendously. Giving it a like will boost it in the algorithm and get it out there to more people, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would do that. You can also share the video if you would like to do that. So let's jump in. First up was Laura Sullivan. She is from Pembroke. She's lived there for 6 years. She's living with her boyfriend and 3 kids. She's got 2 stepkids that are 13 and 16 years old. They have those half-time. And then her son, Ben, who is 10 years old. She works in human resources, and she's been doing that for 6 years. So in Aruba, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, 2022 is kind of the time frame we're talking for this story. They take a regular trip to Aruba. They've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years. And in 2021, she said there were about 60 people that went. Sorry, my dog's growling. They stayed at the Renaissance downtown. Apparently, it's a timeshare resort. They had 20 rooms. She says that they start planning the trip about a year in advance. As rooms become available, she lets her friend group know so they can book them and all that. In summer of 2021, John O'Keefe texted her to get information about the trip. She says that she met John O'Keefe in May of 2023 at a bar in Boston. He was out with Pat Rogers, and after meeting John, she started dating Pat, and he is her son's dad. John and Pat were both Boston police officers, and they were best friends. In July of 2013, she found out that she was pregnant. And sadly, in November of 2013, Pat committed suicide. John O'Keefe has had a lot of loss in his time. He really has. That was his best friend. November of 2013, she was on a work trip, and she had a conversation with Pat that she said just didn't feel right. And we all know what she's talking about. We've all had that feeling like something's off here. So she called John and said, "You need to go find him. I can't get a hold of him. He won't answer his phone." John left his nephew's birthday party. He called a bunch of people on his way, and ultimately Pat was found in the basement of his house. She says after that, John never really left her side as a support system. In December of 2013, which was John's birthday, they went to the Playwright where they had all originally met. She gave him a card and asked him to be her son's godfather, and he said yes. John was very involved in her son's life. He was always in contact. He was the first person in her delivery room after she gave birth, she said. She said that he came like for all the holidays, family parties, everything. He was always there. She says he was a constant and a connection to Pat. John always made sure that Ben was taken care of and being there to tell him stories from his relationship with Pat. Her family referred to John as the Godfather. She called John and told him they had a group of rooms, a lot of kids, and her friends were going, and he'd have a great time. John said it would be him, the kids, and Karen, and she had never met Karen at this point. Karen said that she needed her own bathroom and her own space. And this is because Karen has colitis. This isn't like Karen being like a diva and wanting, oh, I just want it to be me and you and I don't want the kids or whatever. No, she wanted her own bathroom, kind of like, privacy. If she's having an issue, she doesn't want to be taking up the bathroom, and the kids need to go or whatever. She was just being conscious of everyone else's needs. So she wanted 2 rooms, and the rooms they got were on opposite sides of the hotel. It doesn't sound like they were super far apart. That was my daughter. They were on the first floor of the hotel, and they led out, like you could walk out the door and you were at the pool. And it sounds like you could see the kids' room from John and Karen's room. John and Karen were in one and the kids were in the other. They went down on December 30th and they all went to dinner at a place called Screaming Eagle. She says her boyfriend Josh ordered a dirty martini with blue cheese stuffed olives. The defense objected to that and it was sustained. So I'm not really sure what the significance of that was and why the defense didn't want it in, but I just thought that was so weird. I mean, we've heard what everybody was drinking at Brian Jr.'s birthday. We've heard what everybody was drinking at the waterfall. We know what Brian Higgins was drinking at the hillside. So it's just weird that they didn't want us to know about what her boyfriend drank. So she said that Karen paid the bill. Now, remember, this is, it's a group of people, not a huge group, but a group, and Karen paid the bill prior to them receiving it, and they were all kind of like, oh no, you don't have to do that, offering, to pay her, give her money back, whatever, and she said no. She said that she was honored to be there and she wanted to pay for it, just showing her gratitude for being included. On December 31st, 2021, John had been pretty vocal on the 30th that all he wanted to do was sit in the pool and watch the Alabama game. He was a big fan of Bama, and I can relate because I'm a huge Sooners fan, so I would probably be the same way. She has a younger sister named Marietta, who is 10 years younger than her, and she arrived, she said, at 1 p.m. There were 40 people going to have dinner on the beach that night at 7 o'clock, but John and Karen didn't go. She says that she got Karen's phone number in Aruba as part of a group text with the babysitter. So, like, they would leave their kids with somebody, and everybody could text with the babysitter. It was like a group text with the babysitter, and that's how she got Karen's information. So the group got back to the hotel around 9:30, 10 o'clock after eating dinner. She said her parents were also there, and they had a room on the 5th floor. New Year's Eve at the pool bar, she says that her sister went to her room with her mom to put their mom to bed and change her clothes. She says that she saw John at 10 to 10:30 at the pool bar, and her sister had come down before she saw John, and she said her sister was visibly upset and frustrated. She had a conversation with her sister about something that had happened, and then she had a conversation with John. She says that she was shocked to see him there. I don't know why she was shocked to see him there, but she said that she was shocked to see him there and asked what's going on. John said nothing, and she asked, did Etta, her sister Marietta, did Etta and Karen have words? John said, I don't know. Laura said, well, that's not what Etta said. She asked John if everything was okay, and John's phone was lighting up with calls and texts repeatedly, and she could see that it said Karen on his phone. So she asked, do you need to take it? And John said, yes, she's crazy. I've got to take care of this. On New Year's Day, she didn't see John or Karen, but she did see the kids. On January 2nd, they had rented 8 cabanas on the hotel's private island, and John had one booked. They went out at 10 a.m., and John and Karen and the kids weren't there yet. So she texts John, and she's like, are you coming, or do you want me to sell this cabana? Because there were other couples there, and he could have made his money back. John asked who was there, and she said everybody. And John said, well, apparently I made out with your sister the other night, according to Karen. That was the first time Laura had heard that. It's not what her sister had told her on New Year's Eve. She was shocked, and she immediately went and found her sister and said, did you make out with John? Now, her sister was dating someone who was also on the trip. Lauren texted John back and said, Etta said absolutely not. So John and Karen end up coming out to the cabanas. She said Karen immediately went into the water and was floating in the ocean for a good chunk of the day. John was going to the cabanas, talking to people, just his normal self, just visiting with everybody. She mentioned that one of her favorite pictures of John and her son was taken on that day out there. Another day, she saw John at the pool, and she said he seemed distant. She asked if he was okay, and he shrugged it off. She said, are you happy? She said John rolled his eyes and shrugged it off. And she said, life's too short not to be happy. And John said, well, you know, Laura, it is what it is. She asked if he wanted to talk about it, and he said, not really. And then the day before John and Karen left, she said Karen grabbed her and said, hey, I'm sorry. I thought I saw something that I didn't, and I would like to pay for some of your sister's room. On January 29th, her aunt called her and told her that John had passed away. She hung up and called John, and she called anybody's number that she had that was associated with the O'Keefe family. She called and texted Kaylee, and she texted Karen Reed. She said Kaylee texted her, and then Karen texted her, hi, Laura, John has passed. We found him in the snow at 5 a.m. We were both at the same party. I didn't go in. I went home. And then on Cross, the only thing that was brought up was that Laura was not at the waterfall, and she was not at 34 Fairview. But Trooper Proctor visited her home and interviewed her on February 8th of 2022, which is way earlier than some of the people that were at Waterfall and were at 34 Fairview were interviewed. So what was the rush to talk to the Aruba Girls? And on redirect, Lally just says, Trooper Fanning was with Trooper Proctor, and she said, yeah. So that's it for her. Next, we had her sister, Marietta Sullivan. Can I just say that she was the happiest witness in the world to be there? You can see it on her face. She was so glad to, I guess she thought hand Karen Reed her ass in court. I don't know, but she was more than happy to be there to testify against Karen Reed. So she lives in Plymouth. She's lived there less than a year. She is the director at a memory health community for 1 year. She has 2 siblings, an older brother and a sister, and her sister is Laura, who we just discussed. She had the family trip to Aruba. She was there from Friday, December 31st to Friday, January 7th. Her boyfriend arrived on January 1st. Her and her mom arrived on the 31st at 3:30 p.m. Her sister said 1, but no one's paying attention to time in Aruba, probably. She saw John O'Keefe at the pool bar. She says that he was a dear family friend, and she knew him for 8 to 9 years. She saw him at family parties, and he was like a big brother to her. She hadn't met Karen Reed prior to the trip. On December 31st, she had dinner with a large group, the group that had gone to the beach. John didn't go. She got back after 9 p.m. and went to check on her mom. Now, remember, John's plan was to sit in the pool and watch the Bama game, right? And I'm sure there was some drinking going on. So she comes back down to the lobby and saw John come stumbling in. She gave John a big hug, and she said he was glassy-eyed. And she points him towards the rooms, and she turns and goes towards the pool bar. As she's going towards the pool bar, she hears John's name yelled angrily across the lobby. So she stopped and turned to go back, and then she heard, "Who the fuck was that?" and sees John walking towards a woman. John said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister." Marietta said, "Hi, nice to meet you." And she says, "Karen Reed loudly told her to go fuck herself." Marietta said, "Yeah, fuck you too," and walked away. And she was so happy to say this in court. She asked her sister Laura, she's like, "John O'Keefe's girlfriend, you guys like her?" Laura said, "Yeah, she's okay." And Marietta said, "Well, she sucks." She saw John and Karen briefly on the 2nd at the Cabanas, but didn't have any conversation. Her sister asked if she was making out with John, and she said absolutely not, because he's family. He's a big brother to her. She had no more interactions with John or Karen. And then on cross, again, it's brought up that, it says Laura, it should say, Marietta, my apologies, wasn't at the waterfall or 34 Fairview, and Trooper Proctor visited her home on February 8th of 2022. Again, her and her sister were not at the waterfall, they were not at 34 Fairview, yet Proctor rushes to interview them on February 8th, well ahead of interviewing a lot of other witnesses that were at the waterfall and were at Fairview. On redirect, Lally says, "You were living in Pembroke at the time?" She says yes. Apparently she was living in her sister's basement. And again, he brings up that Trooper Fanning was with Trooper Proctor. And that's it. That's it for the Aruba Girls, you guys. So, am I thinking on this? I've said in previous videos, when Bella's mom was brought up, I said the only reason this makes sense is because they're going to try to say it goes towards motive, that she got jealous and flipped out and decided, you know what, if we're going to a party close to Bella's mom's house, I'm just going to run over my boyfriend and leave him for dead in the snow. Well, we bring in the Aruba Girls to talk about this incident where, like I said, there's drinking involved. Hey! There's drinking involved. There was drinking involved on the 28th, 29th. She got jealous when she saw John giving Etta a hug. I am so sorry. She said that they were making out and they weren't. She kind of, blew it up, made an issue out of something that it wasn't really what she thought it was. It happens, right? Especially when you're drinking. It happens. But I think the reason that this was brought up is to show, look, she's gotten jealous in the past, and she blew up at John, so she probably got jealous again on the 28th, 29th about Bella's mom, and that's what triggered her to do this. It's the only thing I can think of. Yet, when she got mad at John, yeah, she was calling and texting him over and over and over. She didn't kill him in Aruba. She didn't hurt him in Aruba. So, is she a jealous person? Maybe. But being a jealous person doesn't make you a murderer. So, I don't know. I think that's the reason they were brought in. I do think it's very strange that they were interviewed so early on. It really makes you feel like from the jump, they had their narrative of Karen Reed, what happened and why. And these girls were there to back up that narrative with their story of the Aruba incident. That's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think about the whole Aruba incident and why it was brought in. And do you think this goes to motive? Because I don't see it. I really don't. But, maybe we'll get there. Maybe the Commonwealth will get us there. I don't know. But if you didn't like this on your way in, please like it on your way out. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Liking and subscribing are completely free, and they both help the channel a lot. It will get the video out there and seen by a lot more people. Feel free to share it with hashtag Karen Reed trial, John O'Keefe, Canton cover up, whatever. There's a million to choose from. Pick one and share it. That's all I got for you today. Tomorrow we're going to get into Brian Higgins' testimony and everyone else that testified after him, and then we're caught up. Yay! I knew we could do it. So thank you for spending part of your day with me, and as always, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.